ask you what's your favorite Japanese sports coupe from the 90s, you might say Integra Type R, you might say Toyota Supra, you might say Nissan 300ZX. There will even be some rotary fans name dropping the FD-RX-7, all of which are good choices, but I almost never hear people mention the Lexus SC. The MK4 Supra was built off the SC300 platform, and they both have the 2JZ, yet Supras routinely auction for over $50,000 while an SC300 can barely crest 20. The SC400, while not perfect, is the only V8 rear-wheel drive Japanese coupe that exists from that era, and they're almost, dare I say, affordable. So today we're going to look back at the entire 9-year run of the SC Coupe and see if it's being slept on for a reason, or if you should probably buy one. It's 1991. You just picked up a brand new game for your Sega Genesis, but you keep losing and now all your base are belong to them. Your school just got a bunch of new Macintosh classics. You're trying to play Oregon Trail in peace, but your teachers insist that you must learn how to use ClarisWorks. It's going to become the industry standard. In automotive news, by 1991, Honda, who had beat the other Japanese manufacturers to the punch by launching their upscale brand first, had firmly established their Acura brand complete with a flagship luxury sedan and coupe, a mid-level more European-influenced sedan, and a sporty hatchback. They even had a supercar now. I've already done videos on all of those models. Lexus didn't launch until late 1989 in North America, but even though they were a little late to the party and already had some stiff competition, the Lexus flagship LS400 received high praise immediately upon its release and was absolutely a valid competitor to Acura's flagship Legend model. While the LS400 competed well with the Legend sedan, Lexus was yet to launch a coupe to compete with the Legend coupe, which was a pretty fun and capable luxury sports coupe. It was even available with a 6-speed. But all that changed in 1991 when the Lexus SC400 went on sale. Needless to say, when the SC400 first hit showroom floors, it turned heads. Lexus had begun development on the exterior design back in 1987 at a research center in California, and they did it in a unique way.
Designers at Toyota's Calty Research Center in California shaped wet plaster inside balloons to create the initial concept of what is now the SC400.
As a result, almost every line on the SC was a curve, and remember, it's the beginning of the 90s. Most vehicles at this time were full of right angles. The drag coefficient was just 0.31, and the design became very influential, with more rounded exteriors becoming the norm as the 90s progressed. And while its Acura competition, the Legend Coupe, was fairly unique from the sedan, featuring many unique features and sharing fewer body panels than one might assume, it still was, as the name suggests, a Legend coupe. The fact that the SC exterior was essentially designed from the ground up as opposed to off of the existing LS interior, the SC stood out more as a unique model in the Lexus lineup. It wasn't just an LS coupe. The interior also featured a somewhat rounded design with curved surfaces, and was mostly unique too. Despite sharing some buttons and knobs and having similar gauges, the dash itself was pretty distinct from the LS. There was a single line of matte finish wood grain that extended onto the door panels, and the seats were very comfortable, made of thick leather. It even featured the most important climate vent, which was becoming rather rare by the 90s. The SC interior really was a place of luxury, packed with all the premium features you could ask for, from a powered tilt and telescoping wheel to a trunk-mounted CD changer and even an optional car phone, so you could call your neighbors and tell them to look out the window in envy as you roll through your gated community in your Lexus.
Hello?
Look out your window, Jeff! Seat adjustments? There's a motor for that. You didn't even have to manually tilt the seat forward to allow access for your rear passengers. There's a motor for that too, until it breaks. Then you have to slither into the back seat like a worm. Been there, done that. To further assist your less affluent friends whom you have banished to the backseat dungeon, the door hinges were specially designed to swing out and forward, in theory improving rear seat access. The only thing I really don't like about these interiors is the steering wheel. An IS steering wheel swap is the way to go. Also, better radio and climate control screens would have been nice. I know it's the early 90s, but I've had calculators with better displays than this. The SC400 did of course share the LS400 powertrain. Under the hood was the 1UZ FE, and that dual overhead cam V8 sends 250 horsepower to the rear wheel. With a double wishbone suspension setup, 4-wheel disc brakes with standard ABS, and even an optional traction control package, this Lexus Sport Coupe 400 is missing just one thing: a proper gearbox. Like the LS400, the transmission was a 4-speed auto only. And while the SC can boast to its Acura counterpart that it has 2 more cylinders and sends the power to the correct wheels, the Legend can fire back and say that the Lexus is missing 2 gears and a pedal. The thing is though, even though I complain a lot about 90s luxury cars lacking manual transmissions, they lack them for a reason. Sports cars and luxury cars were still 2 very different markets in the 90s. Lexuses were marketed towards mature professionals, CEOs and business owners.
Hi, I'm a H.E. Pennypacker.
And these people typically weren't looking to shift their own gears. Hell, half the time they didn't even park their own cars.
Curious Lexus.
is that there are no adjustments to make anymore.
He moved my seat?
At the
This is outrageous.
Lexus automatically adjusts everything back just the way you like it.
You can alter your shift points by switching between normal and power modes, and I suppose for most executives that was good enough. Remember that a standard transmission used to be just that. Standard. It's what your base Corolla came with. An automatic transmission was a luxury and an expensive option. Lexuses weren't made to appeal to younger drivers. You can tell by the gratuitous use of beige. Nothing about them was meant to be standard. Plus, if you wanted a true sports car, Toyota already had the Supra. Still, that logic makes sense for the LS, but they were literally calling this vehicle a sport coupe. Shouldn't there at least be a manual option? Well, the truth is Toyota never made a manual transmission for their V8 platform, but there would still be a manual SC option. We would just have to wait a year. For the 1992 model year, a second SC option would hit the market, the SC300. Now the SC300 was a 6-cylinder. Yes, it was the 2JZ.
Giddy up.
And therefore the SC300 could be had with a 5-speed manual. Now if I was a rich executive in the 90s, this is certainly what I would have wanted, but I wasn't buying luxury cars back then. I was learning to use ClarisWorks. So for all of the reasons I just talked about, Lexus actually sold very few manual transmission SC300s. Just look at these tragic automatic versus manual production numbers. One unfortunate thing for Canadians like me was Lexus, for whatever reason, did not sell the SC300 in Canada. Why would you do that, Lexus Canada? Manuals are better in the snow anyway. So are winter tires, just saying. From the outside, aside from reading the badge, the only exterior clue to differentiate an SC300 from a 400 is the wheels. The SC300 wheels were slightly different in design, and they were 15-inch, while the 400 rode on 16s. Please stop putting 20s on these cars.
What the hell is that?
Brakes were still 4-wheel disc with ABS, though the SC300 rotors were slightly smaller in diameter. Optional traction control was still available. The interior was also pretty much unchanged and came with most of the same standard features. According to MotorWeek, leather was actually optional on the 300, but I've never seen one without leather. But that makes sense, because if you could afford the Lexus SC300 base $32,700 price tag in 1992, you were not about to get cloth and be the laughingstock of Cimarron Hills. Even your peasant cousin who is a middle manager has leather in his Datsun M30.
Excuse me?
Infinity, whatever. The real difference between the two SCs is what's under the hood. Like I mentioned, the SC300 is powered by the 2JZ GE, the non-turbo version of the 2JZ shared with the naturally aspirated MK4 Supra. In the Lexus, the 2J actually outputs 5 more horsepower than in the NA Supra, and the Lexus version featured a few more refinements like resin-coated pistons, steel cylinder head gaskets, and was overall a little bit lighter in weight. Comparing it to the V8 in the SC400, it had 25 less horsepower and about 25% less torque, but with the 5-speed manual matched the SC400 0 to 60 time of 6.9 seconds. The first update for these vehicles came in 1995, but it was very minor. From what I can tell, it was just new taillights and wheels. The front end and interior remained the same. In 1996, the SC400 had an engine update, with the 1UZ gaining 10 horsepower and a silly plastic engine cover. The increased power output was achieved with lighter pistons and connecting rods and a higher compression ratio. A much more significant update was done in 1997, both cosmetically and mechanically. Cosmetically, there were again new taillights and wheels, and this time the front fascia was updated as well, with a reshaped front bumper and added grille and slightly reshaped headlights and fog lights. The rear bumpers and side skirts were updated as well. Inside was mostly unchanged except for the gauge cluster. It's subtle, but if I display them side by side, you'll see the differences. Mechanically, both engines received Toyota's new variable valve timing system. On the SC300, this increased torque from 210 to 220 foot-pounds, but actual horsepower was unchanged. On the SC400, the variable valve timing was combined with a further compression ratio increase, and power output shot up to 290 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque. I absolutely love the 97 update. I think the Lexus SC is one of the best looking cars to come out of the 90s. Even the pre-refresh ones are gorgeous, but 97 just elevated it to a whole nother level for me. I'd swipe right. Unfortunately though, 97 would also be the final year you could get a manual transmission on the 300. After that, it would be automatic only. The sales numbers of manual transmissions SCs were super low, and by 97 it just wasn't profitable to continue making a manual transmission option anymore. That means if, like me, you want a manual SC300 with the 97 styling and VVT engine, there were only 120 of them ever made. So these are not the cars you're looking for. In 1998, 98, the automatic transmission on the SC400s were upgraded to a 5-speed. Many sources online say this was done in 97, but that's incorrect, and you can tell by looking at the gear selector in the gauge cluster, or just by looking at the gear shift. Both the 98 4-speed SC300s and 5-speed SC400s received the same updated gear shift knob for this year. Both engines, but especially the SC400, had more plastic covering, because this is a luxury car, and you are not allowed to have naked valve covers if you live in Cimarron Hills. Close your hood, Jeff, that's obscene! They'll let any filth in here nowadays. Only the Lexus dealer has the special tools to remove the plastic.
You don't have a 10 mil?
Certainly not. I do not dirty my hands with such trivial things. I'm a Lexus owner. I have investments to make.
Like what?
My roll-out tie dispenser.
In 1999, they finally updated the steering wheel. This one looks much better. They never did update those calculator LCD screens though. 2000 would be the final model year, with less than 1,000 SC300s and 400s produced combined. The dwindling sales of the SC is probably partially due to the fact that the model had such a long run without any major redesigns and people get bored easily.
Are these free?
But was definitely also due to the declined popularity of two-door cars in general. We were about to enter the eras of SUVs and crossovers, and we've already covered plenty of other two-door models on the channel that went out of production right around this same time. Now there technically was a second generation Lexus SC, but oh my god, that's where those wheels came from. Now technically there is a second generation SC, the SC430.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna bother talking about that one. 10 years ago you could buy one of these for like dirt cheap. And even now with the absurd inflation of golden era Japanese cars, prices are going up, but I feel like they're appreciating slower than a lot of other cool cars. Yes, it's disappointing that the SC400s are automatic only, but most kids nowadays don't even know how to drive a manual. So if they want a fancy whip to do donuts in the 7-Eleven parking lot in, why not buy one of these instead of going into debt 50 grand on a new car? Plus, it is possible to manual swap these. I would love to do that myself someday. As for the SC300s, well yeah, the manuals are rare, but they do pop up. Everyone obsesses over the Supra. I know the SC doesn't have the turbocharged version of the 2J, but like, you'll have so much money left over from buying an SC over a Supra, you can build it and turbo it yourself, and have enough money left over to buy a more practical daily, or add it to your savings account, or blow it at the casino, I don't know, whatever suits your fancy. Anyway, someday I hope I can import myself a manual SC300 up here to my igloo. Unlike a Supra, they aren't so far out of reach. Unless this video does too well and these cars get more popular and suddenly only rich people from Cimarron Hills can afford them again. On second thought, forget everything you just watched. These cars suck, you don't want them, all your Lexus are belong to me.